Welcome to Know the Word, Live the Word. This is Chris Bender. Revelation is a book of the Bible where scholars come from a variety of views. It is part of a literary genre known as apocalyptic, which makes remarkable use of symbolism. Every view recognizes the symbolism, but each disagrees with what's being conveyed. Many scholars have a combination of the views rather than holding to strictly one. Scholars continue to debate two different dates of writing as to whether it's written during Emperor Nero or Domitian. One of the four views can't be true if the later writing date is correct. Currently, the most popular view is the Futurist one, from a dispensational perspective. This view developed in the mid-19th century. It holds to the most literal interpretation of Revelation and views most of the prophecies occurring in a 7-year tribulation period before 1,000 years of peace where Christ reigns on earth and the final judgment occurs after a great war. Though a 7-year period is not written of in Revelation, it does speak of 3.5 years multiple times, and they interpret these as two separate sets of 3.5 years. They believe that the Antichrist will rise to power and make a covenant of peace with Israel, including the rebuilding of the Jewish temple. During these 7 years, and right before, during, or after that period, Jesus will return to rapture believers from their earthly bodies. They view the severity of the prophecies being described can only be fulfilled through worldwide cataclysmic events. Most scholars holding to the Preterist view are partial Preterists, meaning that they recognize that most of the prophecies, except the last few chapters, are depicting in sensational apocalyptic literature the Roman and Jewish war. That war lasted 3.5 years and resulted in the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70. And they believe that was predicted as the Great Tribulation by Jesus in Luke 21, Matthew 24, and Mark 13. Another reason for seeing Revelation as being fulfilled in the first century is because the book continuously speaks that its fulfillment is at hand. They say that if Daniel was told to seal up the vision concerning the Greek conquests, which occurred within a few hundred years of his time, then, if John was told not to seal up the prophecy, that this must mean that the time is very near. It's unclear when this view developed, but many mark its inception in the 16th century. Nero Caesar in Hebrew and in Aramaic adds up to 666, which is who they see as the beast of Revelation 13. Some preterists believe the 1,000-year reign is symbolic of the reign of Christ through his church as it expands before he physically returns, while others see a future 1,000 years of peace that will occur when most of the earth has converted to Christianity. Preterists see the rapture of the church simultaneous with Christ's second coming. The Historicist view, which was developed and held by most of the reformers, interprets Revelation describing the story of the church from the late 1st century until Jesus returns. For example, they see some of the prophecies of Revelation reflecting the attacks of the Muslim people against Christians in the 7th to 8th centuries. They view the beast as a position of the papacy, seeing that the Latin phrase of the Pope's position, using Roman numerology, adds up to 666. They interpret the 1260-day Great Tribulation as symbolic of 1260 years of papal authority from the 6th century to the 19th century. Seventh Day Adventists now represent the majority of those who hold to this view. They anticipate a future event where believers are forced to worship on Sunday rather than Saturday as the mark of the beast. They interpret a literal 1,000-year period of Christ reigning on earth before the final judgment. The fourth is the Idealist view, which sees most of the prophecies as being symbolic of the entire church age. This view by far spiritualizes more of Revelation than any other. Some see Revelation as representative of spiritual realities and truths, summarizing wars and injustice. Others see it as pointing to multiple periods of church history, such as Nero being the first representation of the beast and Hitler being a more recent example. Like Preterists, they can view the 1,000-year period as symbolic of the expansion of Christ's church on earth, or a time where the majority of people become Christians, which leads to a time of peace. Other than seeing the literal return of Christ, final judgment, and new creation, this view differs from the other three in that most of the prophecies are not predicting specific events. One thing all views can agree on: Jesus is King of the universe and is coming back to reward the righteous and condemn the wicked. I, for one, am choosing to live for Him now.